a seat. So I want to welcome you to this forum tonight. We're really excited about it. We have all five candidates here. And before we get started, I'm going to ask Pastor Wayne Barr, who is also the Harrison County GOP Chair, to lead us in prayer. So do you want to stand while he does that, Wayne?
Co-chair. Tony waits to chair. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, bless us this evening as we gather to listen and to learn from these men who are seeking to serve us. Grant us wisdom, and may the conversations that happen tonight lead to productive outcomes. May the words spoken be filled with truth and grace, and may these fine souls who seek to lead be protected from harm and guided by the principles of faith, family, and freedom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Good to be seated. Oh, I guess we're going to pledge.
Can't do anything without the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Charlie. A couple of housekeeping things. First of all, I want to thank Charlie Johnson for helping put this together. I appreciate it a lot. I don't know what I'd do without his help. And I also want to thank Chris Perdue for helping with all that techie stuff that I don't understand, so I appreciate that a lot. And I also want to thank Jack Holder for filming this tonight. So thank you for any press that are here. Appreciate that a lot too. So anyway, real quickly, appreciate you being here. Just want to make it abundantly clear. Faith and Freedom, we don't endorse in primaries. We don't even endorse in general elections. And I'm not trying to brag here, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. No other organization, nonprofit, does more voter contact with the base than Faith and Freedom. So in 2024, we did around 2.1 to 2.2 million voter contacts. That's everything from social media to direct mail. We did about 250,000 door knocks. And we basically just present the truth where these candidates stand on the issues. And it's all documented, chapter and verse, where that came from, a voting record, public statement, whatever, so it's always documented. In fact, a few years ago, I had a Republican in Southeast Iowa that was not very happy with us because on the comparison piece, he didn't look very well. But so we just produce the truth and then educate people of like mind, right of center, and then hoping that they are going to turn out and do the right thing and vote for the right candidates in the fall. So that's what we do. So, you know, we'd love to have you involved. If you've never, real quickly, we got two big events in Des Moines. Next year, May 11th is going to be our spring kickoff. September 19th is going to be our fall dinner. You know, a year ago we had Tom Holman there in the fall. This last fall we had Kristi Noem, and we had Senator Barrino from Ohio, and then we also had Scott Jennings, the CNN commentator. So if you've never been to one, let it come, and I guarantee if I can get you to come to one, you won't want to ever miss one again. So anyway, so we will be fully engaged in the fall when this primary is over. And so we don't directly endorse who that nominee will be, but hopefully when we educate people in the 4th District, that which one of these five is better than, I'm sure, what the Democrats are going to produce, that they understand that they need to do the right thing. Does that make sense?
Sure does to us.
Huh?
Sure does to us.
Yeah. So without any further ado, I'm just thrilled that all five of these guys came tonight. And I'm actually going to turn it over, and I'm sure you're going to be glad about this, you don't have to hear it from me anymore. But Jeff Pitts, who lobbies for us in Des Moines, done a heck of a good job. I've always told people I love politics, but I would make a horrible lobbyist because I don't have the patience to deal with legislators who think they wear big pants. And that doesn't refer to Brent Segrist or any of our other good legislators who do a heck of a good job. But there are some legislators I just wouldn't want to deal with, and thank God he does. So Anyway, Jeff did a great job. We had 2 gubernatorial forums, and I think all those candidates thought that they were treated fairly. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Pitts now, and here we go, okay?
Thanks, Steve. Here we go. All right, welcome to the race for who will represent Iowa in District 4 in the U.S. Congress. And welcome to what we call Iowa Faith and Freedom's Soapbox Speaker Series. On the soapboxes tonight, so-called soapboxes, sitting here are the 5 candidates, 5 Republican candidates for the 4th District seat in U.S. Congress. Our agenda is lengthy, but not too lengthy. It's meaty and it's critically important. I think we can all agree on that. That's why we're here. I want to thank Steve and everyone on the Iowa Faith and Freedom Board for helping put this together. We want to thank our event sponsors, Morris Hurd, Charlie Johnson, Marianne Hanusa. And we'd also like to give a shout out to all the wonderful folks affiliated with Pottawatomie County GOP who filled us in on how to do an event in this area. Also, especially to Chris Purdue for helping us do the sound, for sure. Thank you. Please note that we have multiple members of the state legislature in attendance tonight, including Iowa House Rep. Brent Segrist, Iowa House Rep. Stephen Holt, I don't know if he made it, but he did RSVP. Iowa House Rep. John Dunwell, Iowa House Rep. Matt Winchell, and is Mark Costello a member of the Iowa State Senate here? Okay. Well, we also must thank various members of the media for coming and covering and giving you all a voice, hearing our voices. And of course, a big thanks to these 5 contenders for Congress who joined us tonight. Thank you. Most of all, thank you all of you for coming and caring about this important process. All right, enough with the formalities. I'll be reading the questions tonight, and as moderator, I'll be as impartial as possible. As such, I won't be asking follow-up questions. I'll simply allow the candidates to speak for themselves and trust you all to sort it out. The goal is for speaking time to be allotted equally, and it basically breaks down. There'll be 3 basic rounds. They'll have 3 minutes each to introduce themselves and give a stump speech. Then they'll each answer 4 questions, not 4 at a time, but in a row, that they've gotten previously. And there are 4 issues that we know everyone's going to want to hear about. And then they'll get 3 questions randomly, not the same, that they have not seen before. So the idea is you get to see them on the stump, on script, off script, on the same stage. So to begin, we'll roll the dice to see who goes first, and then we'll go in clockwise order. Highest goes first.
Just determine when I vote.
3, 2, and 2. So Ryan will go first. Okay, over here. So,
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's so important.
Jeff,
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but you need to introduce all these guys, make sure everybody knows who they are. Okay.
Okay. Douglas Jensen, Ryan Rhodes, Christian Schlaper, Chris McGowan, and Matt Winchell.
You guys are critically important to this process as we're getting out here and vetting everybody and answering the questions, because it really doesn't matter if once we get to the point you see the TV ads, there's a lot of other stuff. It's really important that you get out here and see it from us, and get us to get a chance to ask the questions and get involved in the process. And this process got a lot busier with the governor's race, the congressional race, the Senate race, auditor race, everything up and down the ballot. So I want to thank you guys all for doing your duty, and we need so much more of that. So my name's Ryan Rhodes. Some of you have known me before. I've traveled the state an awful lot, whether it was with the Iowa Tea Party, with Secretary Ben Carson, who was at that time Dr. Ben Carson running for president, or a number of any other different campaigns with the state Senate and other things I've been involved in as well. I I did go out to DC with the Trump administration and did operations and advance work and things like that, and was able to help him get his message out. And then I left and started my other companies. And those go from everything from tech company, we brought Parlor back online, to political consulting companies where we fought hard to get people you might know, like Byron Donalds, Anna Paulina Luna, and really strong conservatives, I think, out there in the House. You're going to hear a lot more from us tonight on all the issues, but I wanted to thank you for coming out, and I can't wait to talk to you all more afterwards as well.
My name is Christian Schlafer. Thank you all so much for being here today. This is so important, what we're engaged in here, because America is a truly exceptional nation. And I, like all of you, am proud to be an American every day. I try to live my life under the ideals that built this nation. I am a farmer, I'm a businessman, I'm a husband, I'm a lay preacher. And although I'm not a politician, and it's not something I'm necessarily ashamed of, I've lived my whole life advocating for many of the important political issues that we're going to talk about here today. I homesteaded my property, built it nail by nail on our 5th generation family farm. But when you drive down the main street of my small town, you'll see shuttered storefronts. And when you sit in half-empty pews on Sunday, and you hear from Iowans suffering from hardship, you're reminded of something, that America does not have time. We don't have another election, another decade, another generation to make sure that our country is restored and on the correct path. We have to do that today. Donald Trump has done an amazing job in Washington, D.C., but the swamp that he's trying to drain is far deeper and more dangerous than any of us could have imagined. And if we allow Democrats, progressives, or woke ideology individuals to take control of this country again, they will turn against us with a revenge for the great things that we've been able to accomplish. You cannot underestimate that. This country is at a crossroads, and we need leaders at every single level carrying that fight forwards. And what that is a fight for the Main Street and the church. The Main Street, the American middle class, and the church, the morals of our country, where the truth is spoken. Those are the things that built America into what it is, and those are the things that we have to have in restoring it. And in order to do that, we need to speak plainly, we need to speak boldly. We need to speak out against the immigration crisis that is robbing this country. We need to speak out against woke, transgender, Marxist ideology that are disrupting our children's futures. We need to uphold our God-given rights, the First Amendment, the right to bear arms, the right to raise our children how we imagine. That is what we're fighting for. It's not just dollars and laws. It's the very future of what it means to be an American and what America is. And so I'm so thankful to be here today to do my very best to continue that fight forwards. I appreciate you all coming out, hearing us here. I just ask that you listen to each of us here today. You listen to our words carefully. You ask yourselves if they truly believe what they're saying. And are they truly someone that can go to Washington, D.C. and fight to get those things done? Because we have to go and we have to fight now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Chris McGowan, and I'm standing because I'm a little shorter than some, and I have a couple of people that I would like to take the opportunity to introduce. But before I begin, I want to thank Steve Scheffler, Mr. Pitts, and Iowa's Faith and Freedom Coalition, not just for what they're doing tonight, but what they've literally been doing for decades, and that's making a difference in Iowa politics. And so please join me in thanking them for hosting this forum. I'd like to begin tonight by really introducing myself and sharing with each of you who is Chris McGowan? What do we know about this first-time political candidate from Sioux City? And that begins with our America First, Iowa Always agenda. And that America First, Iowa Always agenda is supported by values that coincidentally were shared in our opening prayer this evening. Those are the values of faith, family, and freedom. The first question I get when I'm visiting with people is, Chris, why are you a candidate for public office? What is most important to you? Why now? At 58 years old, married for 26 years, father of 6, why at this stage in your life is it a priority for you to try and become the voice of Iowa 4 and to reflect the values of this congressional district in Washington, D.C.? That begins with a statement that I believe is critically important. If you go back to 1776 and 1777, an American patriot by the name of Thomas Paine said, and I quote, "Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must, like men, undergo the fatigue of supporting it." I served in uniform in the Iowa Air National Guard. My father, who's with us this evening, I'm delighted to have him. He's 88 years old, and he's a Vietnam veteran who served in Phu Cat, Vietnam from 1968 to 69. Dad, say hello. I won the lottery as a kid because I had a mother and a father who impressed upon me those critically important values. I won the lottery a second time when I married my wife of 26 years. Kathleen, say hello. The mother of our 6 children, 5 of who are now engaged in a path in military service, 4 are in military service, and 1 is at a Naval Academy prep school as we speak. But my desire to serve can be summed up by Thomas Paine's quote, "Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must, like men, undergo the fatigue of supporting it." And as my 3 minutes comes to an end, I would like to ask for your support in the June 2nd, 2026 Republican primary for Chris McGowan. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Matt Winchell. Let me just give you a brief history. Proud father of 2 adult daughters. They are both in college right now. When I first started to run for office, I really didn't know what I was getting into. I was 22 years old, fresh back from Iraq with the deployment with the Marine Corps, and I got recruited to run out of my family gun shop. And when we got into office, it was with a Democrat trifecta. And it gave me an opportunity to learn how the process worked. By my 3rd year in office, I was elected into leadership, and I've been in leadership for 16 of my 19 years, going on 20 years. I've risen through the ranks as assistant leader to Speaker Pro Tem, and most recently, Majority Leader of the Iowa House for the past 6 years. A lot of people have always asked me, like, hey, when are you going to run for governor? When are you going to go to Washington, D.C.? And I've always said, I don't want to. I can do more here in Iowa. But as the political landscape here in Iowa has shifted, well, Congressman Feenstra is going to run for governor for Kim Reynolds' seat. I had a lot of people reach out to me and encourage me to run. The reason they were doing that is because they wanted a trust and proven leader, someone that can get a job done. I'm not the type to want to get my name up in the headlines. I don't like having my name up in lights, but all the accomplishments that you hear about as you go to different political events, as you hear, some of the statewide talk about how we've changed Iowa, how we've transformed Iowa. I've had a hand in helping make sure all of those good things have happened. Those conservative values that we care about, that you care about, that I care about, those are the kinds of things that we need out in Washington, D.C. There's so many different issues that are going on right now, not only nationally, but globally. We need somebody that can hit the ground running. I've got experience, I know how to get a job done. There are so many different successes that we've had here in Iowa. Talk about cutting taxes, saving the unborn, passing the heartbeat bill twice, making sure that we're protecting girls' sports, and making sure we're not having boys running girls' sports. All of those different things we've done here in Iowa. I'd like to take those same experiences out to Washington, D.C. and be your voice. And as I've said repeatedly to so many different people, it's not my agenda that I take to Washington, D.C. It's not my agenda that I take to the State House. It is your agenda. That's how I've been effective. I have listened, learned, and represented my constituents. Some people ask me, like, what's the most satisfying thing about your job? It is helping the people that I seek to serve. And I seek to serve you out in Washington, D.C. I'll freely admit I don't know what I don't know. I don't like to consider myself a politician. As Herbert Hoover once said, being a politician is a poor profession. Being a public servant is a noble one. I'd like to continue to be your public servant, make sure that Iowa 4 is represented properly, and make sure that we are securing the freedoms and liberties that we all believe in, and the radical left is trying to strip from us and rip away from us and shove their agenda down our throat. We have got to stand up, and we have got to have proven, trusted, conservative leadership that knows how to get the job done. I believe I am that person, and I ask for your support on June 2nd. Thank you very much.
My name is Douglas Jensen. Is this one working?
Hello? My name is Douglas Jensen, and I'm running for Congress because Washington is broken. And I'm not talking flat tire, dented, rim broken. I'm talking about driving the car off a cliff, hitting every boulder on the way down, crashing into a fiery inferno, and then sinking into the swamp of DC, only to be covered by decades of dysfunction, rotting, putrid. That's what's getting me off the sideline. But the frame, miraculously, is still good. This is our country's framework, the Constitution. It is an imperfect but exceptional document. And our founding fathers thought very well and put the legislative branch as the first branch of Congress. The first article in the Constitution for a reason, to be closest to the people. But right now, Congress is the most dysfunctional branch of government. It can't do its constitutional job. It can't pass a budget. It can't even keep the government open. It takes strong leadership to fix a problem like that. My background is leadership. Leading troops in combat zones. Leading multi-million-dollar projects. And I'm not talking just one big building, but I've done that too. I'm talking entire intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance networks. Theater-wide, continent-wide, ballistic missile defense shield. Taking care of our NATO's and our allies in NATO. And unfortunately did not extend to Ukraine. I'm talking about leadership in other ways, the everyday ways. Leading a family, raising children to fear God, to respect others, to work hard, and to serve the community. I'm not a politician, but I have led teams through challenges where failure is not an option. Think nuclear command and control. Congress is failing us right now. I'm not a politician. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a problem solver. Here in Iowa, when we have problems, we solve them. That's what we need in Congress. Someone who will do the hard work, solve the problems, just like you do every day. Hardworking, solving your daily problems. My name is Douglas Jensen. I humbly ask for your trust, your prayers, and if this message resonates with you, your vote. I'm ready to represent the people of Iowa's 4th District. Because together we can do what's right for the people of Iowa, and we can do what's right for America.
Okay, for the next, this is the second portion of the program where they will have the 4 questions that they've seen before. So for the first question, I'll ask it. We'll go to Ryan first again, and at some point we'll reverse order, but for right now we'll stick with it. And then we'll go down the line, they'll each answer this same question. The U.S. deficit debt crisis. The mind-boggling U.S. debt recently topped $38 trillion. That's an obligation of roughly $110,000 for every single citizen, or $328,000 per taxpayer. According to some estimates, we spend up to $3 billion per day just on interest. What's your plan to reduce the federal deficit and or the national debt?
Well, one, I think we can all agree it's ridiculously out of control. I'm going to have a little divergence. I'm glad the government is shut down right now, and I'm glad we actually have a Congress that is finally standing against an extra $1.5 trillion of communist Obamacare, period. if we start negotiating with these Democrats and let them hamstring us, okay, we're going to give up everything. We don't have time. In fact, the package we've already given out there is already too big. But we're trying to do something, and I think the American people see that as Republicans, we are trying to do something. I think they should gut even more of this stuff, okay? Everybody, the Democrats like to use all of these entitlements, okay, as something to terrify people. But you know what? There's millions of refugees and foreign people we've brought into our country on food stamps, okay? On welfare and on other things. And they'll tell you that's not true. But we saw Elon Musk go in there and do this stuff. We need to actually go in with Doge. We need to go deeper with Doge, okay? And we're going to have to do the hard things, and we're going to have to push this out there because we literally can't take clipping around the edges anymore, period, okay? We need a Republican, a blood red Republican in this seat who starts pushing those weak people that we have in our own party in the middle. Thank God they're holding now, okay? But if we have someone who's just going to go out there and pull a lever and vote decently, then we're not going to do it. So yeah, the budget goes. Immigration hits the budget. Our entitlements hit the budget. There's a lot of other things that hit the budget. And we are going to have to actually do those hard things that no one wants to talk about. But for right now, I'm really glad that Rush Vaught is out there, hopefully with an absolute chainsaw, wrecking everything he can that they have put in place for 30 years while we are in the strut down. So when they come out, the Democrats are going to go, holy crap, I wish we wouldn't have done that.
The deficit is a serious issue. I think we can all recognize that. And the interest payments that we're paying on it are only getting worse, creating an urgency. Over the last decade, we hit about $4 trillion. Over the next decade, it'll be $14 trillion. Over the 2 hours that we will sit here tonight, the debt will go up by nearly $500 million. That is unsustainable. No country can exist under those conditions. Anyone that imagines they're just going to wave a pen, sign one bill, and fix that without destroying the economy are wrong. We need to take steps every day, though, and approach the most accessible areas first. We do it the same way you fix your budget at home. You bring more money in, and you spend less money. We go ahead and build our economy so that we have more tax money coming in, and we slash the most egregious areas of spending. And there's one area that's most egregious, and that is immigration. This is not a reactionary rhetoric. That is just simple math. If you look at a single program like Medicaid, you see that 39% of illegal alien-headed households are using Medicaid. Of foreign-born individuals in the United States, it's 36%. Only 25% of actual U.S. citizens are in that program, and of that, the majority are first generation. I will have no arguments about slashing something as critical as our farm programs, while this country spends hundreds of billions of dollars on non-U.S. citizens. We want to go towards a balanced budget. There's things that we can do today. We can get to a balanced budget, and we can slash the deficit down from there, and we need to do that before that interest gets out of control. Thank you.
Trying to respect the 1 to 2 minute request that the rules outlined, I'm going to keep my remarks very tight, so if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my stopwatch to make sure that I respect exactly what Steve and Jeff have asked of us this evening. By way of reminder, the question was, what is your plan to address our federal debt? Now at $38 trillion. It wasn't that long ago that we were talking about much smaller numbers. At 58 years old, I'm old enough to remember when there was a serious debate about a balanced budget amendment in the U.S. Congress. Folks, Iowa was smart enough to employ that strategy to make sure that our elected officials adhered to only spending near what we brought in. The federal government does not have the discipline. Our elected officials do not have the discipline, nor quite honestly, and I hate to say this, do they have the incentive when it's become far too easy to go out and campaign and say, sure, I'm going to support that, and sure, I'm going to support your cause. The fact of the matter is, our America First, Iowa Always agenda is rooted in social and fiscal conservatism. Fiscal conservatism means that we have to be disciplined in our spending, just like we all have to do in our personal lives. We have to make sure that we reintroduce a balanced budget amendment, because quite honestly, and I think that you will agree with me, as you look at the spectrum from the far right to the far left and to everywhere in between, do we have the votes and do we have the political fortitude to say no to people when we don't have the financial resources to continue to spend as we've been spending for generations? That must end, and Chris McGowan and the McGowan for Iowa team believe that the surest and fastest way to arrest that spending is to force Congress to remain disciplined and to advocate for, pass, and ask the President of the United States to sign a balanced budget amendment.
I don't want this to come across as arrogant, but been there, done that, all right? As I talked about previously, when I was first elected, the Democrats had a trifecta. That means they controlled the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. And they spent recklessly. They put us into so much of a deficit in Iowa that in 2010, Governor Colbert had to do a 1% across the board cut, and then later in that year, he had to do a 10% across the board cut. We then took control of the House. Governor Branstad was reelected as governor, and it took us almost 10 years to get that spending back under control because the Democrats still controlled the state Senate. Now, we've got a surplus here in Iowa, and we've cut taxes time and time and time again, and our economy is still growing. The same principles that we've applied here in Iowa that I've been a part of needs to be what is being applied in Washington, D.C. And yes, that's going to mean we have to tighten the belt. Yes, that means some people are going to have to get a haircut. Yes, that means we're going to have to cut back on the reckless spending. And I know my colleagues here are going to say very similar things about we've got to get the debt under control. I think about it from the perspective of my two daughters. We talked about the figures up here. I've got an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. How much debt are they going to have to pay as they raise their families, as they move forward in life? We've done it in Iowa. I've been part of that solution. I want to go to Washington, D.C. and continue to be part of that solution. And yes, it means making tough decisions. I remember when we came back into power and we finally got the Senate and we had our trifecta, we had to do de-appropriations because the Senate Democrats had made us spend so much money. Those were very tough decisions. But now look at where we're at. Look at what we've done in Iowa by cutting spending, but also doing it in a way that makes it work for all Iowans of every class range. We've done it here in Iowa. I know how to get that done, and I want to be part of that solution out in Washington, D.C.
So the deficit we're seeing is a huge problem, but it's a symptom of the bigger problem of our dysfunctional Congress. In my 40-year lifespan, our Congress has on one single occasion, in 1996, passed all required appropriations bills by law on time. That is the only time in the last 40 years they have done that. The solution is that simple. It's doing the basic job that Congress is supposed to do. A balanced budget will help us get there. A balanced budget amendment would be one tool to help get there. But just balancing the budget. Now, there are certain ways to make it easier of, instead of requiring 12 appropriations bills every single year, do it every 2 years in a term. Instead of doing authorizations and appropriations, condense that. But it really comes down to Congress doing the job. Prioritizing. Balancing the budget like we all have to do at home. Not saying, I'm going to authorize this much thinking I might get this much money, only to have to cut it later. It's failing us all. And it's not just bad accounting. It's a moral failure. They are robbing from us, the taxpayer, from our children, from our grandchildren. We need to fix it. We need to fix it now. And it's going to take time. It's going to take 50, maybe 100 years to get it down under control and out of the hole that we've dug ourselves in. But we can do it with courage and making those hard decisions.
Okay, second question, and we'll just keep going in order here. I think it's working good. Pipelines and property rights. The white-hot debate over the proposed carbon pipeline and the potential use of eminent domain for private gain has become one of the most intense issues in Iowa. If you were in the U.S. Congress, you'd wield influence in statewide politics as well as on the national front. What specific solution, if any, or legislative approach would you champion to protect private property rights while addressing this controversy? And what can or should be done, if anything, at the national level to address the issue?
Well, one, unequivocally, I will say I 100% believe in private property rights. That is absolutely a core foundation of where we're at. Two, as you see in the governor's race and everywhere else, people can read a poll. It's not popular right now thinking about getting into this stuff. So I think everybody, you're going to hear a lot from everybody on that issue. I will tell you something very dangerous about the national side of it. Even in the big beautiful bill, which thank goodness it came out less than 24 hours before that, okay? So the big beautiful bill still had all this great stuff. It almost got put in there where it got taken entirely out of Iowa's hands, and they almost just said, it doesn't matter what you think or what you vote on at the state level, we're gonna take it out of your hands. Now that's not what we wanna see in Congress there. And it's a lot easier to deal with. It's not a cop-out, it's a lot easier to deal with it on the state level because you don't have to go and convince somebody from Arizona or Texas, not that they're bad guys, but they don't care about the land here in Iowa on something that's going through $1 trillion bill. So what you need is you need someone who's going to make sure that that stuff is not hidden in a bill out in Washington, D.C., but that lets the legislators and the people at this local level, which they've done, actually do the job that they were sent there to do. And I think that's where it's going at the local level.
The use of eminent domain for the carbon pipeline is wrong. I'm not just saying that as convenient political rhetoric, picking the winning side. That pipeline goes directly through that property that I talked about homesteading earlier. If I talk this talk, but I don't actually live up to it, I will be first on the chopping block to pay the consequences and have that put in my fields. The economic conditions that even justify this program in the first place are false. It's government subsidies that drive up spending. It's California and waivers that they shouldn't legally be allowed to tell Iowans how to run their businesses with. In Congress, we can deal with that. We can address those elements of this issue. And there's another lens to this as well. As a firefighter, I know how dangerous these carbon pipelines are. We use a book when it comes to hazardous material, and that book tells us how far we need to stay away. If you look up carbon dioxide, it'll tell you don't go close because you'll suffocate. The engine in your car will die. And in that book it says for a large spill, you need to stay 300 feet away. When it talks about a large spill, it means a single truck. The carbon pipeline isn't large, it is gigantic. The standoff distance is estimated, depending on what you're talking about, at a mile or more. It is simply unethical for the government to come to your land, tell you what you can do with it, and then put something there that no one can come and help you when something inevitably goes wrong. If you want some communist aspect of the government stepping in and telling you what you can do with your private property, then you can move to New York and you can have a gentleman like that Mandami that's running there. He'll be happy to do that for you. It's not something we can do here in Iowa. Thank you.
There is no doubt that since I launched this campaign about 100 days ago, the number one issue that I am asked about on the campaign trail is eminent domain. So let me be clear. We should not allow eminent domain for private gain. What you may not know about Chris McGowan is that after graduating from college and spending a number of years in the military and then a number of years in the private sector, in my 30s, I decided to go to law school. Not because it was my aim to become a practicing attorney, but because I wanted the education. I wanted to understand the Constitution, and I wanted to understand how our government functioned with the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. Clearly, the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution has what's called the Takings Clause. The Takings Clause permits government to take private property for a public use. I repeat, a public use, not a public purpose, a public use, which has historically been defined as a military installation, a road, a school, a park. That is a public use. What the Supreme Court did in June of 2005, 20 years ago this summer, was that they expanded the definition of a public use and really did violence to our Constitution and legislated from the bench and said, no, not just a public use, but a public purpose. And they allowed the expansion of eminent domain to be used not just for a public use, but for a private use. That's wrong. I won't stand for it. And as I continue to campaign through this Republican primary next June, I will continue to advocate and remind people we will not allow or support eminent domain for private gain.
Well, in my time as Majority Leader of the Iowa House, this has become one of the most controversial issues, all right? It's interesting when I go to my local town hall forums, and I've got farmers that are with, let's say, the Farm Bureau, and I've got farmers that are with the corn growers. And the corn growers say, we need this to help support our ethanol industry. The Farm Bureau members are saying, not in my ground, not in my dirt. That's why my caucus and I have fought tirelessly over the past 4+ years to pass legislation over to the Senate, and the Senate has not taken action until this year. And then the governor vetoed the bill that we passed. Now, there were a lot of things in that bill that it just been boiling up over time because of lack of action by the state Senate. And I'm not trying to denigrate my colleagues in the state Senate. They had their own reasons. But we passed private property protections. We passed so many different pieces that were trying to address what the Iowa Utilities Commission had authorized for the use of eminent domain for private gain. We stopped it, but unfortunately, it got vetoed by the governor. This is not something that's going away very easily. And we didn't create this beast, all right? This was under the Biden administration. They created this problem with the tax credits they authorized, and even Congress can't get it figured out. As my colleagues up here have talked about, like, this is a federal issue that absolutely has to be addressed, but we have to make sure that if you don't want a project on your ground, in your dirt, on your land, nobody should be able to force you to do that. That is your private property, folks. That's just not okay for the government to come in and say, yeah, you don't like it, we don't care. That's not okay. Your private property is your property, and if you don't have the rights on your private property to say no to a project that you don't want, then what type of freedom do you actually have? We've done it in the Iowa House, and we need to do it on a federal level out in Washington, D.C. as well. Been there, done that. You're going to hear that from me time and time again, because I have been the leader on these issues with my colleagues, helping to make sure we are providing those protections here in Iowa, and that's the same type of leadership I want to take out to Washington, D.C. as your next representative.
So as my colleagues have pointed out, this is really two separate issues, the issue of eminent domain and the issue of the pipeline itself. In terms of eminent domain, as it was pointed out, the Fifth Amendment, the Takings Clause shows private property, nor shall private property be taken for public use. Public use. And my position is that I stand for personal property rights. The decision of the Supreme Court decided on the case for Kelo in allowing personal property to be taken for economic development was decided in 2005, 20 years ago. Another failure of Congress to act. They have allowed that to stand when some of the most most conservative Supreme Court justices dissented against that opinion. Justice Antonin Scalia, one of the most conservatives, said, no, this is wrong, I dissent. This is not public use. That's what our Congress needs to do. They need to codify it in law, what qualifies for public use. Common carriers, utilities, things that serve the public, not the private. And then there's the issue of the pipeline. It's a separate issue, and some of the dangers have been pointed out, and how it is funded and subsidized by green energy credits. And once again, it's a situation of taking a waste product and trying to get rid of it somewhere. We need to change that mentality because burying toxic waste has not been a good history for the United States. Granted, carbon dioxide occurs naturally, we breathe it out all the time. We can find other uses for it. Research has shown that higher carbon dioxide concentrations help certain crops grow better. Soybeans, wheat, rice. We can treat this as a resource. We can ask hard questions. Is this the right thing to be doing? That's what our Congress should be doing. Solving the basic problems, finding the best way to do it to serve us.
Okay, for this next question, we'll start moving, we'll alternate, since we started with Ryan, since we shouldn't start with him every time, so we'll move it to Christian. And then when we start the next question, we'll end on down. Life. The heartbeat bill, which prohibits abortionists from killing unborn babies once a heartbeat is detectable, has now been enforceable law in Iowa for a year or so. This heartbeat law has saved lives, no doubt, but plenty of Iowans are seeking abortions still across state lines or ordering chemical abortion pills via the internet. In your view, the national law regarding abortion should be what? And what's the shortest but clearest way to sum up your position on this issue?
This is the easiest question asked tonight. Life starts at conception and abortion is wrong. It's as simple as that, and I would seriously question anybody on this platform right now that said something different. The heartbeat bill is a great step in the right direction, and I'd absolutely support legislation like that on a national scale. The rate that abortion is happening in our country is truly shocking. 1 in every 5 of our children, the people that are supposed to be the future of this country, are murdered through abortion. And we sit here and we act like that isn't the greatest moral crime that goes around us all the time. Somewhere in this country, right now, while we're here at this meeting, a child is being aborted. It's not just a state issue, it's a national issue. And the fact that Congress, Republican Congress, has been pushing for these type of legislations at a national level already is a tragedy. We should be working against groups that seek to surreptitiously move abortion pills into our state in order to continue to practice those abortions, murdering children, but also harming the mothers. Those pills are not regulated, they're not safe, there's tremendous harm done to the women who take them. But it's as simple as that. This is the greatest moral issue our country faces, and it's one that needs immediate action from the national government.
There are many issues that we can all be very passionate about, but there is no doubt in my mind that many of us are here, and at the top of our list for the issues that drive our politics and drive our faith agenda start with the importance of respecting human life. I am the proud father of 6 children. I am very blessed to be the product of a faith-based education. I am unapologetically pro-life. I have raised a family to share those values and to be an example to others. I have been to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. My beloved bride has attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C., independent of my participation. My children, while students at the United States Naval Academy in nearby Annapolis, Maryland, have attended the March for Life. We have a very firm commitment in our party, and certainly in my own family, to stand up and to defend life at any time, at any cost, and for any reason. Human life begins at conception, and as political leaders and as engaged citizens, do we not have a moral obligation to stand up and defend the defenseless, and to stand for right, and when the winds blow hard in our face, to stand strong and to say, we will not yield. There is no more important issue, and it starts with our commitment as our founding fathers provided when they wrote life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 3 priorities, and they started with life. McGowan for Iowa will be uncompromising.
Well, folks, life begins at conception. Life is a gift from God. It's not up to us to determine when to take that life. Okay? I got in trouble back in 2011, 2012. A liberal journalist, I'm not going to mention his name, contacted me and said, what are you going to do with your new Republican majority? You're an assistant majority leader now. What would you want to get done? And I said, if I had the proverbial magic wand, I would end all abortion in the state of Iowa. Made it on the front page of the Des Moines Register. Some of my colleagues contacted me and were like, we can't do that. When Leroy Carhart was trying to come in and do late-term abortions here in Iowa, I was one of many in my caucus, and Mary Ann will remember this, that stood up and said, absolutely not. We're not letting him come into our state. Another anecdote, story actually. I had a lobbyist contact me once over the weekend during session and say, hey, can I get some personal time with you in your office? I want to share a story with you. He came into my office, and this was after we passed the 20-week abortion ban. He hands me over a picture, and it's of this tiny little baby. Her name's Madeline. Call her Maddie. And he tells me the story about how he and his wife had trouble conceiving. And he and his wife eventually adopted this baby. And he said when they sat down with a young mother that had been pregnant but couldn't afford to have a baby, the question just naturally came up and said, hey, why didn't you make different choices? She said, well, I didn't find out I was pregnant until after the 20-week abortion ban. That little girl comes to the Capitol every year, and I still have her picture because we have saved lives. When the Supreme Court in Iowa struck down our heartbeat bill, I was one of the first people to be on the phone saying we have to call for a special session. I helped organize that. Yes, I'd like to end all abortion. I believe that it is a moral issue. But you have to be able to build consensus. You have to be able to work with people. I've proven that I can do that. We have to save those babies. They don't have a voice for themselves. So yes, life begins at conception, and we have to make it a national issue. Now that we have Roe v. Wade overturned, we have to stand up as a country. And our moral fiber and the fabric of who we are, we have to change hearts and minds so people understand that those lives are gifts from God, and it's not up to us to determine when to take them out of this world, period.
The question was the most direct way to summarize my position. Pro-life. Unashamedly pro-life. Once again, this issue is an example of our Congress's failure. Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973, over 50 years ago. And our Congress has not been able to enact federal legislation setting a standard nationwide like it should be. As my colleagues say, life is sacred. The sanctity of life needs to be protected. Congress needs to act to do that because it is not a one state or another state issue. It affects us all, not just national, but globally. So we do need to enact federal legislation protecting life, identifying fetuses as humans, giving them the rights as a human. That will end the most atrocious late-term abortions in liberal states that permit it. It will go far and protect them. Everybody knows that a fetus is never a tumor. It is a human life. It may be unexpected. It may be a surprise. It may be a panic moment of, oh my gosh, what do I do? And there's another step we can take is we, as men and women of faith, can step up in the community. We can support individuals so that when they are in a very traumatic, very scary, uncertain position, that we are there for them so that abortion does not come to mind of, it's not, oh, should I keep this baby or not? It's, how can we support this person? Knowing that they have the support of their family, their friends, the entire community, churches, organizations, that will do more to end abortion than any law ever will. That's the way that we truly solve this and preserve human life.
A especially this one, could be a whole long speech, but I've lived my life fighting for the pro-life cause. Helping the folks who founded personhood here in Iowa and took it. We thank all the legislators for doing that because we've done better here in Iowa. But when you have the abortion pill coming from outside our state into it, okay, that's another thing. Once again, we have to take a stand. This is why I made Make America Iowa my slogan, okay? They are pushing on. They are using what they're doing to push on us. It's time we push back. I've seen this issue and talked about this issue since I was a very child. My mother worked at Planned Parenthood when I was born. And then she got saved and she got out of it. She heard like these pesky questions I asked, okay? And and she goes, I just can't do that. And then God convicted her of how many, she goes, I never did them. But God convicted her of how many that she was responsible for. And so we have to go, we have to look at the women who are being deceived. We have to cut off every dime of federal funding. We have to stand there and make sure life matters. Because the reason we're talking about transgenderism and everything else and every other aspect that they're going for our kids is because it started there and too many people didn't fight. And too many people just wanted funds for the national groups, okay? And had no idea what to do when Roe v. Wade got overturned. The fight has just started to take it back. But I guarantee we are not going to fight this and win it until we start dealing with the soul of our country, and that is going and saying, it even gets into immigration, we cannot import an Islamic horde coming over. Christian values are better, period. And if we're going to win this issue, that has to be said, and that has to be fought for. And yes, we are going to stand, I will stand every single day for the life of those small babies who people are trying to kill.
Okay, we'll start with Chris this time. The question is about differentiation. What sets you apart from the rest of the GOP field in the Republican primary? Why should Republican primary voters choose you as opposed to the others?
Jeff, thank you for the question. And folks, this is a difficult question to answer when you stand aside a panel of people who you truly respect. I've been engaged in this campaign for a little over 3 months now. And I've crossed paths with these individuals on multiple occasions. And at each opportunity to speak, I deliver this same message. I had the opportunity to meet President Ronald Reagan in the Rose Garden when I was 17 years old in 1987 as one of 2 representatives of the state of Iowa at American Legion Boys Nation. What did President Reagan always recommend to fellow Republicans? Honor the 11th commandment. I will not speak ill of my opponents. These are fine individuals. I applaud Representative Winshittle's service in the Marines in uniform, and also his service in the legislature, and Douglas Jensen's service in uniform. I also applaud Ryan for the work that he has done with other Republicans. And to see a young Christian, Schlafer, saying, I want to get involved in the political process. But I do want to differentiate myself and say, I took the time to leave a profession in my mid-30s. God bless my wife who supported me while I went to law school full-time for 3 years to study the Constitution and to make sure that I understood what it said, what it meant, and how it should be adhered to, respected, and revered. I'm an economic development professional. For 22 years, I have been working to attract capital investment to our communities. I did the largest economic development project in the history of the state of Iowa. Billions of dollars, and I'm very, very proud of that. I'm a military veteran. I'm a husband of 26 years. I'm a father of 6. Not only am I the son of a veteran, but my children are also serving in the armed forces. I have a vested interest in making sure that our federal government fulfills its promises to our veterans, to our men and women in uniform, but also to each and every one of our citizens and future generations. I have the background, the education, and the experience to be a very effective advocate for all of you and to reflect your values and be your voice in Washington, D.C. And I hope that over the next 7 months, you will give me the opportunity to earn your confidence and your vote for Chris McGowan for Congress in the primary next June.
As I said in my opening, I never thought I would want to go to Washington, D.C. Heck, there are some days I still don't want to go to Washington, D.C. But as I thought about it and prayed about it, as so many people had approached me, it came down to this. I've been swearing an oath to the Constitution, raising my right hand to protect and defend our values and American freedom since I was 17 years old when I first joined the Marine Corps. That was in May of 2001. I didn't go to boot camp until December 3rd. We all know what happened in the intervening time. It wasn't a question of when you were going to war or if you were going to war, it was when. So I proudly served my country, and right after I got back, I got recruited to run for office, and I remember Mama Donna sitting back there. I called Donna Berry Mama. And she got to meet me when I was 22 years old. And we sat down, we talked about it. She got to hear about what my values were, what my beliefs were. But it wasn't just about what I wanted. It was about what the people wanted. So, as I've been asked the question, what differentiates me is I've been doing this for almost 2 decades. I know how to get a job done. As we've talked about some of the different things we've done here in Iowa, I've had a hand in all of those things. I want to take those same values, same principles, and apply them in Washington, D.C., being part of the solution and not part of the problem. For all the successes we've had in Iowa, we can do the same thing in Washington, D.C., but we need somebody that knows how to get the job done on day one and can figure out how to build those consensuses. I've been doing it. I have a proven track record of conservative leadership. That's what sets me apart, and that's why I'm asking for your support and your vote in the upcoming primary on June 2nd. I look forward to continue to earning your respect and your support. Thank you.
All of us up here are patriots and dedicated citizens. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. I have made the offer to every one of my colleagues here that no matter how this turns out, we are so invested in our country that I want us to work together to make sure that we're helping one another, lifting each other up, working to make our country better. I'm also a combat veteran, served in Afghanistan. Shortly after getting back from Afghanistan, was deployed again to Libya crisis in the Mediterranean. It was there, leading a team of Air Force combat communicators in 2011, when our government was going through the same continuing resolution, threats of government shutdown, and I had personnel on my team who were wondering if they were going to get paid, if their families back home were going to be taken care of while they were serving our country in a deployed environment. That's not something they should be worrying about. They should be focused on national security. That was one of the first moments that made me realize how broken our Congress is. And that's what motivated me when I was doing my PhD dissertation research to study leadership in Congress. Some of you may look at me and think, well, isn't that an oxymoron? And maybe it is. But it's so challenging because there are 435 elected representatives in the House, 100 elected senators. They're all type A personality leaders. How do you get a consensus when you have that many people? That's my research. How do you do that? How to apply that? How to not get sucked into putting your party before your district? How to listen to a lobbyist and an advocate without getting sucked in, oh, I have to support this, they're pledging so much money. How to stay focused, grounded, represent the district well. And the answer is simple, is to do exactly that, to focus on the people, put the people first. Have town halls everywhere, listen to them, always ask what is on your mind. How can I serve you? That's what I'm here to do, to serve you, the people of the 4th District of Iowa.
Well, we do have a great set of folks up here, and I appreciate everybody for running. Now, one of the things I will tell you is when you get out there, it's hard. And I have been threatened by the best of them. I had a political consulting company that got in the fight. We were doing different things. From running Ben Carson's campaign when somebody came to me and said, Ben's really not as pro-life as you think he is. We're going to tone that issue down. I said, well, you can fire, I'll walk, okay? And then I went directly to Ben, and he said, no, I'm there. Those guys need to back down. You can get these people to back down because they would rather go and have that in the back room, okay? The same thing went when I was told you can't help that candidate out, okay? Or we're gonna ruin your company. I've stood with the best of them, getting threatened by them, and I will continue to stand and continue to fight. And yes, sometimes it's a big sacrifice, but I promise you, every single day, I will go out there and make that sacrifice.
We need individuals elected to every single office who are truly willing to fight. The identity, the essence of our country is what's up for stake. Listen to the topics that we've talked about today. These aren't just differences between neighbors. This is abortion. This is fundamental ideologies about what it means to be an American, about who an American is, about what an American looks like. In the last 2 decades alone, our country has strayed so far from what it was. And in another 2 decades, who knows what it will be. When my beautiful wife gives birth to our child, I want that child to come into a world that is on a course for a better future. I want them to inherit an America that they know and they understand. And that will take an absolute fight. Not politics as a career, not the next opportunity because you're about to retire, not the next rung on a political ladder. You have to truly believe. You have to be someone who's going to pay the consequences of your inaction. I've lived that life so far. When it came to COVID-19, it was my first job out of college. I was fired from that job because I refused to get the vaccine. My livelihood, my rent for the next month, gone. I didn't have decades worth of cash in my back pocket to make that choice. I made that choice because that choice was right. When Donald Trump was first running, when a lot of people who now support Trump didn't support Donald Trump, I knew he was on the right course. I stood there. I was attacked and beaten in the street for wearing a Make America Great Again hat, when a lot of people on our side of the political aisle still held their reservations about Trump, even though they sing his praises today. I've lived that fight every second of my life, because that's the fight we have to live if we are going to save and restore this country. And when it comes to Congress, I will continue to live that fight every single day. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the next round, where we ask one question at a time. So they won't have seen these beforehand, and they'll just answer the question, and we'll move on to the next question for the next person. That'll go first. Right, pop quiz, top one. Okay, foreign policy issue. What should America's role in the Ukraine-Russia conflict?
Well, I think President Trump has got it very well in hand in trying to get Russia to back down and end the violence and the anarchy that's going on over there. But what should our role be? We have to protect our allies first and foremost. And that's why I look at what's going on in Israel and what President Trump has been able to secure in getting the hostages released, things like that. But we cannot continue to spend our taxpayer dollars in all of these foreign wars and just dump billions and billions of dollars. We have to make sure that our NATO allies are standing up and actually doing their part in their role as well in making sure that we are secure, not only nationally first, I mean, that has to happen, America first, always, all right? But we also have to make sure our allies are taken care of, but we have to do it as a unified front. I don't know that there's any one direct answer other than Putin's got to stop his crap. It just has to end. And we have to make sure that China's standing up, and I heard a Fox News article today where we're trying to put all the tariffs on China and other countries to make sure that they're stopped fueling the Russian economy by China buying all of its oil from Russia. We have to make those tough decisions, and again, I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know what I don't know about all of the inner workings in Washington, D.C. But I've proven that I can learn quickly on my feet as a legislator, and I want to be part of that solution, not part of the problem.
More foreign policy. What should America's role be in the Israel-Gaza conflict?
We should continue to be involved. The peace that President Trump brokered is amazing. It's something that people didn't think was possible. Israel is our ally. Hamas started this. Any government who exists to destroy another people should not exist. And that's Hamas's stance. That's Hezbollah's stance. They want to eradicate the Jewish Zionist state. And that is not acceptable. And we need to stand with our ally. We need to stand up for what's right. It's that simple.
More foreign policy. What should America's role be in the China-Taiwan situation?
Well, one, I don't think we realize quite how tenuous that is even at this point. I mean, they have the ability to take a land bridge basically right there. So what we're going to have to do is trust that Trump's negotiating, okay? But when you get into this stuff as well, there's something that's not discussed with foreign policy, is we are bringing people in to invade this country, okay? Whether it's whether it's 500,000 Chinese, whether it's all of these people from these so-called refugee status of these Islamic countries that are changing our entire country in Minneapolis, in New York, all over the place, okay? We aren't going to be able to deal with China when we have people from within destroying our fundamental Christian moral foundation, okay? We are going to have to go out there. The White House is going to have to work on this stuff. We are going to have to fight on those things, and we are going to have to do things to bring manufacturing back home so that it doesn't matter just what happens there. And then we're going to have to make sure that we're not bringing that thing back here. That is a defining thing that has to be dealt with. And no, a little bit of cheaper foreign labor is not enough to do this, because at the end of the day, you're actually just sending a chunk of that money over because they're taking so many of our public benefits. So you're really just transferring it from one company into everybody else having to deal with it. But unless we deal with immigration, there is no other national security policy that we are going to do, because our military is strong and we'll be able to maintain that. But unless we deal with immigration, everything else is going to wither in the long run.
America's relationship with the cartels down south is tense, to say the least. Escalating violence and deadly flood of fentanyl and other drugs is fueling as many as 100,000 annual overdose deaths per year, maybe more. The border situation is much more stable than a year ago, no doubt, but the cartels are crafty and haven't been eliminated, not by a long shot. There's human smuggling going on and the bounties put on the heads of ICE agents. The Trump administration is said to have shifted to a war footing, according to some. How should America handle the situation with the cartels?
We should destroy them, and we should destroy those who are smuggling into our country. Recently, the controversy has been these boats smuggling drugs into our country that are killing an unprecedented amount of Americans. They should be stopped. If we can stop them through softer means, then we should do that. But if we can't, we should use the military to intercede. This is protecting our country. The federal government is really only supposed to have 3 primary roles. It's not supposed to be what it is. And one of those is protecting our nation. When you have the amount of Americans that are dying because of drug overdoses every single year, what better way can you do it than destroying the cartels that are bringing those drugs into America? We need to shut down the southern border entirely. We need to disrupt those cartels. We need to use the full apparatus of our intelligence community to track down where these individuals are and address it. We need to pressure the Mexican government because it's complicit largely in many of these cartels bringing drugs into the United States. We are at war with the drug cartels already, and we are paying a tremendous toll in American lives, and it's something that needs to be dealt with immediately. So I strongly support Donald Trump's current initiative, and when I open in the morning and I see Pete Hegseth's daily tweet about the drug boat that they destroyed the night before, I'm very happy to see that.
One more foreign policy issue. Do you support Donald Trump's use of tariffs, and how should that lever or levers be pulled as we move forward?
So in 1 to 2 minutes, the question is about tariffs. I do want to touch upon the other questions. Matt had a question about Russia and Ukraine, and then Douglas had a question about Israel, and then Ryan had a question about China, and then Christian had a question about drug trafficking, all important issues and want to cover all of those. The question that and I'm happy to stay after and answer any questions about all those various questions. That said, the question that I was specifically asked was related to tariffs. Tariffs are taking a huge toll on us right now. But I do believe that President Trump is working very, very hard at this very moment in Asia, trying to work through these deals. If you watch the price of gold today, after hitting all-time highs, it started to check back a little bit because there is promise in the President of the United States and the Trump administration successfully initiating early negotiations with the Chinese. These tariffs are taking a huge toll. We recognize corn, somewhere around $4.25, beans, $10.50. We have to protect our agriculture industries, and part of that means that we have to do everything that we can to expand markets for our farmers and for their products. One of the things that I've been involved with for over 20 years is making sure that we have value-added ag markets. During COVID, my organization stood up to protect the hog producers and the cattle producers, the beef producers, because some people were saying, hey, in your community, you have to shut down your pork plant and your cattle processing, your beef processing plants. Well, what does that do to truckers? What does that do to farmers? Farmers were talking about potentially having to eliminate their livestock. Folks, we got to fight harder and we got to fight better, but I also believe that the President of the United States deserves a chance. We all advocate for free and fair trade. We have free trade, but it hasn't been fair for a long time, and President Trump deserves the opportunity to level the playing field for the United States of America.
Okay, back to Matt. Do you like pets? Just kidding, that's not it. Do you have any pet projects in mind? I'm defining a pet project as something that may not be at the front of everyone's mind, may not be the life issue, for instance, but it's important to you, it's important to a niche, more of a niche product kind of issue.
You're talking about in Congress?
That's right.
Okay. One of the things that people know me for is being kind of the quote-unquote gun guy in the state legislature. When I first got elected, we started out with a May issue system. We moved to a shall issue system in 2010. Now we have constitutional carry. We've got the constitutional amendment that I was very proud to help champion prior to becoming majority leader, and it's now in our state constitution. One of the things that I'd like to see on a national level is national reciprocity. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you have an individual fundamental right to self-defense and self-preservation, all right? We've talked about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but where is that if you don't have an opportunity to defend that life, that liberty, or your pursuit of happiness? If you're not a criminal, you should be able to carry a firearm regardless of what the state lines say, regardless of what some of the liberal states are saying. That would be one of the pet projects I would like to see, is national reciprocity throughout the great United States of America to make sure that you have that right, if you choose to keep and bear arms. It's already enshrined in our state constitution, it's enshrined in our federal constitution, and it should be the law of the land across the country, period. That would be my pet project.
Okay, this next one's for Douglas. 3-part pop quiz. Can a boy become a girl? Is gender subjective? And where to now on this issue in gender ideology?
A boy cannot become a girl. Gender is not subjective. Where we go from here is we need to help these confused youth that are struggling. We need to correct our society and our culture that thinks it's okay to steer confused children down roads of follow this path, knowing what is right and wrong. Children need to be taught. That's why we go to school. We can teach them the basics. A boy is a boy, a girl is a girl. This issue also pans out in sports. And women's sports need to be preserved. Sports teach so many character traits. They teach how to lead. They teach how to follow. They teach teamwork. And it's not fair when you have biological males competing with women. We can solve this. It's a very straightforward issue. States need to stand up, do the right thing. We need to get back to focusing on mental health. When someone has these questions, when they're uncertain, meet with therapists, talk it out. But under no circumstances should we offer surgery as an option, chemical, testosterone, estrogen boosters as an option. That should not happen for children. We must protect the innocence of youth.
This one's for Ryan. Who is Jesus Christ? And what role does God play in your life, and how would that shape your time as U.S. Congressman?
Well, he's the Son of God that died on the cross for our sins. And I think it's really been amazing watching what happened. As sad as Charlie Kirk's thing was, we've seen a resurgence. We've seen people saved across the country. I've watched in my own church hundreds of people being saved. And that's important, and we're going to have to disciple them as well. Because, as I mentioned earlier, Make America Iowa, it matters because I do think our values are better, but our values have even been under attack here, as we've seen over and over and over, okay? But it is time we say it, we define it. The Christian moral foundation of Jesus as our Lord and Savior is better than theirs. And they will not stop, whether it is their climate religion, whether it is the Islamic push that we have now. Ours is better, and we are letting souls die if we do not start championing that. And I think we are in a day and age where we can no longer back down. We can no longer just say that politics is not for this, or that there is this fake separation of church and state, which was never there. The separation is for us to push on the state, not them to push into our churches. So that's what we need to realize when we're going back there. So yes, I will stand there and say, we are going to push back on it because our values and our Christian foundation is better. And if you're not a Christian yet, I encourage you to go find a Bible-believing church, because there's nothing else that's going to matter whether you cast your vote, period.
Amen.
Priorities. What's the first big, hard issue you want to tackle? What's your main priority day one in the U.S. Congress?
It is immigration. It has to be immigration. Immigration is a prerequisite for addressing all of these other things that we talk about. We talk about the budget and the monetary issue. Prerequisite is the most, immigration is the most egregious area that we're spending money. We talk about religion and culture. It's immigration that's driving that change. We talk about the motivations of the American people, being hard workers, being industrious, building. It's Americans that are still doing that, and it's immigrants that aren't. That is statistical. That's objective. What has happened in this country in the last 2 decades has never happened to a nation in the history of humanity. 20 years ago, just a little over 20 years ago, this country was 80% white Christians. Today, it's 20% less. And if we continued at the rate we're at right now, that exponential rate, they will be a minority in this nation by the time that my child becomes an adult. How can you have the same nation? How can you preserve the same ideals? You can't. Everybody has a specific button issue that they care about. Everybody has a topic that affects them in their personal life, their day-to-day. And that's really important. But in order to turn inwards, in order to address those things, we have to first address immigration. We have to be an American nation made out of Americans. And then we can build our neighbors up with ourselves.
Okay, next one's for Chris. What more, if anything, needs to be done on the border? A lot's been done in the last year. Is ICE acting appropriately? Where are you on deportation? Sanctuary cities? How should we mitigate disruptions to the workforce or the population in general? The border is a big topic. Can you sum up some of your thoughts on some of the aforementioned in less than 2 minutes?
The border is a monumental project, And I want to give credit where credit is due. Because for years, we sat and listened to Secretary Mayorkas of the Biden administration. Bald-faced lie after bald-faced lie. If that's not perjury, I don't know what is. When he sat and told Congress, we're doing everything we can to secure the border. The border is secure. We don't have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people pouring across our southern border. We knew that was patently false. Donald Trump said from day one this would be a priority. He made it a priority, and he has proven that when you hire the right people and you enact the right policies, we have to give credit to Secretary Kristi Noem for her leadership on the border. We have to applaud Tom Homan and the men and women who are engaged in ICE to protect and defend our border. They are now being threatened. We know that a couple of weeks ago, someone fired from a rifle in a rooftop into an ICE vehicle. That is not acceptable. If you look at our, not my political website, but if you look at the ICE website, it talks about the Trump agenda and what they are doing to focus on the southern border, to eradicate fentanyl, to stop the human trafficking, and to end the scourge that the Biden administration threw open the doors and said, come on in. And not only did they encourage people to come through their policies and through their public rhetoric, they came and they did not do anything to stop them at the border. The Trump administration has proven that with the right leadership, not only at the presidential level, but at the secretary level for the Department of Homeland Security, and with ICE, so with Secretary Noem and Director Holman at ICE, we can make a difference. I will support the president. I will support his immigration policy. I will support Secretary Noem and also Tom Homan and all of his agents who are doing all they can to protect the United States of America and to secure our borders.
Matt, agriculture plays a huge role in the economy in Iowa's 4th District. What can be done from Washington, D.C. to improve the bottom line for local farmers, and what would be your aim there?
Well, I put together an ag advisory board. I sent that press release out a while ago. I'm listening to folks from all over the 4th District about what really needs to happen. And I know the tariffs are just killing some of our local farmers right now. You know, the whole beef situation and trying to bring beef in from Argentina. This is an issue that we absolutely have to look at and be very careful with because our ag economy in Iowa, we feed the world. We absolutely have to get a farm bill passed. And I don't care if that means we cut out all the SNAP subsidies and all the other crap that's in that farm bill, but we have to get a farm bill passed to make sure that our farmers make sure and have the assurance that as they're making the investment into their own crops, into their own equipment, that they're not going to go belly up and we're not going to have a farm crisis like we did in the 80s. They have to have those assurances. The federal government plays a huge role in ensuring that, and we've got to get our ducks in a row and make sure that that's happening on a federal level. There's only so much states can do. We try and do a great job here in Iowa, but we've got to get a farm bill passed that actually has meaningful challenges for the farmers to be able to do the job that they need to do to feed the world and help them help us.
Guns. 2026 midterm elections figure to feature Democrats, your opponents, loudly pushing an agenda that includes universal background checks and assault weapon bans. What say you?
Guns. I support the Second Amendment. I have seen firsthand in Afghanistan how small arms can hold off the world's most powerful military. The Second Amendment was created so that we could defend from a tyrannical government. They work. They are tools. They can be abused. We do need to stop the abuse so that we can protect our rights to own guns. We as gun owners need to show how to handle them safely, how to handle them well. I myself am a 4-H youth shooting instructor so that I can pass on to the next generation how to handle them safely, how to handle them responsibly. I unapologetically support the Second Amendment because I know why it's there. As a father of young children, I'm also terrified and scared that they have to do active shooter lockdown drills in their schools. That's not something we had to do when we were children. I was used to the fire drills, the tornado drills. We have a mental health issue in this country. We have an issue making sure that firearms are treated safely, responsibly, respectfully. We as gun owners need to make sure that we are doing that to support it so that our Second Amendment rights do not come under attack, so that we can continue to defend them and keep that vital right in our country.
Okay, the next question's for Ryan. What type of legislator will you be known as? Who would you compare the ideal version of yourself to? What lawmaker or role model is it?
Well, I'm going to go out there and be a fighter. We have way too many weak Republicans in seats all around the country that are solidly Republican. The Democrats get AOC and Ilhan Omar and Jasmine Crockett and all these others that drag their entire party to the left, okay? Meanwhile, we have these legislators in bright red places that somehow just get along to go along. That's not me. Now, Mark Meadows is a friend of mine and somebody I like a lot. I've helped get people like Byron Donalds and Anna Paulina Luna and Mary Miller there. Is there one defining legislature? No, I don't think so. But what I want to do is be the guy who fights. And by the way, from this seat, I think we can go and fight to get more red congressmen in other red districts when those seats come open too, because we have to start using our influence and where we are at to spread that to other places and not just allow the same old congressman who's been up there. There's plenty of Republicans I get along with, but there's plenty of bad ones that are stopping an agenda that's going to fix our country.
Gridlock in Washington is off the charts. What's your plan for navigating the narrow avenues that exist for legislative successes? How much will you attempt to work across the aisle? How much will you compromise? Are you closer to saying go along to get along, or it's my dang way or the highway, or reframe it in your own way of what you would be?
When it comes to building the relationships that are necessary to get things done, I'm very well versed in that. In my day job, I work as a consultant, and I work with C-suite executives of companies you all know the names for every day, building those relationships, implementing products for companies. So when it comes to those relationships, I know how to get that done. But we have to be very careful here about what compromise is and where we do it. When we talk about compromise, you'll hear a narrative that we need to meet in the middle, that we're all really on the same side. But there's a lot of issues facing our country these days where that's not the case. We have to maintain a moral stance on immigration, the very future of our country. On abortion, should we have a debate about how many babies we can kill a day? On transgenderism, should we have a debate about which body parts we can cut off of our children? There are moral absolutes that our country is facing, and we have to hold firm on those. Yes, Washington, there's gridlock. It's a problem, but it doesn't mean that we can sacrifice our morals. Donald Trump has taught the Republican Party how to win, and you win by keep going forwards. Because when you speak the truth, when you are guided by faith, when you are doing what is right, you will eventually win. That is what it teaches us in the Bible. That's what can be applied to politics. That's what's been successful so far, and that's what will be successful going forwards.
Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Mean conservatives are going to rip these entitlements from grandmas across the nation if Republicans have their way. That's the talking point that we'll likely hear in 2026 from the left. How will you rebut that rhetoric, if you will?
First and foremost, you have to reject the narrative. Republicans are compassionate, caring, concerned people. We always have been. That's why we fight for life. We fight for the downtrodden. We always have and we always will. I'm the proud son of a family physician who practiced medicine in my hometown for over 50 years. His responsibility was to run a medical residency program for recent medical school graduates. They studied under him for 3 years until they went into their own private practice. That's what I saw every day as a young child. I also saw my father get up in the middle of the night to go in to deliver babies, to deliver health care, and to do so with compassion and with care and with concern. I have fought for health care on numerous fronts, and I will continue to do so. The Iowa Poison Control Center is located in Sioux City. It is the only statewide agency that we have there. I was responsible for fighting to save that organization and to make sure that they could continue to be the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week resource for parents who had issues with their children ingesting something toxic or poison. I was also the individual who was on the front lines of fighting to protect the Siouxland Medical Education Foundation, an organization that exists to teach and provide health care throughout our community. When medical malpractice insurance premiums skyrocketed, and this organization had a responsibility for teaching young doctors how to deliver babies, two things came into play. Number one, you had inexperienced physicians. Number two, you had them doing sometimes very complicated medical procedures, the delivery of a baby. As medical malpractice insurance premiums spiked, that institution was at risk of closing. My organization engaged, and I'm proud to say that we kept the doors open, we fought to provide that care, and I reject the narrative of anyone who says that Republicans don't care and are heartless as it comes to the issues of medical care and providing for those who need support.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are on time.
It means we all did a really good job.
Thank you so much. That's you. This might be the first time ever. If you don't mind, let's do a bonus round of a 2-minute close. Would that be, anyone have any objections? And we'll start with Matt since Chris just, and I know that's short notice, but we'll do that bonus round and then we'll wrap up.
Well, I appreciate you folks being out here tonight and listening to us. As my colleagues up here on this stage and I have talked about, it's going to be up to you. Whoever you choose is going to be our Republican nominee, and then likely in Iowa 4, they're going to be the next congressperson for Iowa 4. And so whatever happens in this primary come up to June 2nd, afterwards we unify, we come together. No ill will, no speaking badly about one another. We will apply Reagan's 11th commandment. I've talked with many of my colleagues up here and we've had that conversation. So I just want to end with this. I appreciate the engagement and the involvement, okay? Running for Congress was never on my bingo card, but I have the proven track record of leadership and success that will help Iowa 4 continue to be represented the way it needs to be. And bringing the correct conservative principles out to Washington, D.C. is vitally important. So I want to continue to earn your vote. I want to continue to listen to you. And again, it's about your agenda, not mine. And again, I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So I look forward to earning your vote on June 2nd. I know we're going to have more panels like this as the race continues. And thank you folks for being out here tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
When I opened, I painted a picture of a broken Congress. And that's true. Congress is broken. It does need to be fixed. And we can do that. We, the American people, are strong. Our communities are strong. Our families are strong. Our churches are strong. We have the values, the faith, and the resolve to fix hard problems. Thank you for being here as part of an active citizenry, willing to take time out of what you could otherwise be doing to be part of the solution to those problems. It's a long road ahead, We have dug that hole over a long time, and it will take a while to dig out of this problem of a broken government, of a broken Congress. But together we can do it. I'm willing to do the hard work. I'm asking, will you stand with me in making sure that can happen? I'm Douglas Jensen, and tonight I am humbly asking for your trust, your prayers, and on June 2nd, your vote to make sure that we can salvage our government, to make sure that we can ensure that it works for the people of the 4th District of Iowa, to do what's right for Iowa, and to do what's right for America.
Well, thank you guys, and for taking the time. This Sunday, my pastor actually preached a message, and then he did a call for people to repent. And one of the things he said was, he's like, is now the time. Maybe not today, but how long are you going to have? How much longer before you're off the cliff and there is no going back? Before God gives up on you and lets the rope go and lets you have your own way? Well, that same thing can be said for our country. Whether it is what the FBI has done, and these happen to my friends. I watched them haul these people off with no crime and try to bankrupt them, okay? That thing has to be, I don't even think it can be tore down just to the studs. We have to eradicate so much of what it does. And then there have to be consequences. Jack Smith and those people, they have to have consequences, and somebody needs to get out there and fight. The same thing for these transgender issues, okay? I'm going to say, we all hear about the men and women force, the boys and girls. Transgenderism is evil to its core, period. It should be stopped 100%. Not around the edges. All of it, period. Not allowed whatsoever in this country. And the people who are going to do it have to have consequences. If they're going to go after your kid, there have to be consequences. It can't just be us saying no and then going to a corner. This is fundamentally what we are about. There's a lot to fix in this country. There's a lot that's broken. But we have to go out and fight, and we have to go and say, that line that was there before you shot at President Trump, that line that was there before you killed our General Charlie Kirk, that line's gone. We are coming to charge across that line and take our country back. My name is Ryan Rhodes, and I humbly ask for your vote for Congress.
I'll stand here as well, and thank you all so much for coming out tonight. If I spoke intensely tonight for most of my answers, it's because we're dealing with serious issues. The days where politics as a game, as a career, as a job are over. Our country is divided, and we have to restore it. Faith and freedom, thank you for hosting this event. But words like faith and freedom, while they're good concepts, are not enough for a political platform. You have to mean something behind them. They have to translate into actual policy. And that policy has to lead towards the restoration of this country. It doesn't just need to happen in the presidency. It needs to happen at every single level, because you better believe that the left is trying to do it at every single level. And if they are able to do it, they will tear this country down. They will ensure that we never have a chance for someone like Donald Trump to come back. They will fundamentally reform the image of this country. And our children, my child, will never see the America that they were meant to see. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're running a true grassroots campaign here out of our farm in North Iowa. We appreciate all your support. For everybody that has got involved, everybody that would like to get involved, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys all, and God bless you.
I want to join my colleagues and end tonight by first and foremost thanking Steve Scheffler and his team at the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition, once again, not only for what they've done tonight, but what they have done in our state for decades. Please join me in thanking them for hosting. You have a decision to make. And over the course of the next 7 months, my commitment is to do everything in my power to earn your confidence, earn your support, and ultimately to earn your vote for Chris McGowan for Congress on June 2nd of 2026. You heard committed, passionate candidates tonight talk about issues that are very important to us. We also have to bring new ideas to Washington. An idea that I will bring to Washington and that I will be proud to champion is to end the scourge of pornography that haunts our children and our families. Why haven't we heard someone say, just as we have .com, .biz, .edu, .gov, why can't we quarantine and push pornography into its own domain so that we can protect our children from this scourge and so that we can restore families and healthy relationships? Those are the new ideas that we need to bring to our nation's capital and to fight for that reflect our values. I'm a 4-H kid. I spent my years growing up in 4-H. 4-H taught me how to respond to questions, to repeat the question so the audience knows what we're talking about, to stand and to deliver your remarks to an audience. I'm so grateful for the foundation I had in 4-H. I'm also grateful for the foundation I had in youth sports in our great state. I'm proud of Iowa. I've lived all over the country, in school, in the military, in graduate school, in professional capacities. My wife and I chose to raise our family on a small farm in Iowa. One of the best decisions we could have ever made. To be effective in Washington, you have to build bridges and you have to build relationships. I encourage you to visit McGowanforIowa.com, look at our vision, look at our issues, and I would encourage you to look at our endorsements. Each Monday, we put up a new endorsement of our campaign. Last Monday, it was the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan. Couldn't be prouder to have his support. But here tonight, I'm working to earn your support, your confidence, and ultimately your vote for Chris McGowan next June. Thank you for being here and thank you for engaging in this political process.
All right, that's the conclusion of the forum. Thank you all so much. Can we hear it for them one more time? Thanks all of you for coming, for caring about this country. Stick around if you want for a few minutes and talk to the candidates if they're willing, if they have time. Steve is going to give a final message and then we'll close in prayer.
So first of all, I want to thank Harley again for helping put this together. I want to thank the candidates for coming. What a great job you all did. We'd be proud if any of these men were elected. And also, I think we forgot to mention a couple of our sponsors, Carl Heinrich and Bob Benton, but thank you for all coming. Hope you'll come to our events on May 11th and September 19th. And will you all do me one big favor before you leave? So we need to put these chairs around the table, on top of the table, upside down. Does that make sense? That'll save us a lot of time. We can get out of here quickly. So if you can do that, that'd be great. And please, you'll want to take that literature on the table so we don't have to clean that up. Besides, you need to take it home. You need to study it. So put your chairs upside down and take the literature with you. And this time we're going to have Pastor Rick Sweeney, the First Baptist Church, leads in a closing prayer. So thank you for coming. Pastor Sweeney.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your presence here tonight. You know, I'm just so thrilled about what I've heard tonight. It makes it a very tough decision. Thank you for the people that have come out and given them strength and inspiration here tonight, Lord. And you'll have your way. You will be done. We thank you for this country. We thank you for this state. Lord, thank you for President Donald Trump. Thank you for the way things are changing. Nothing happens quick, and we have to be patient. We have to pray. We have to work like these men up here, like people in this room tonight, Lord. You give us strength. You give us the will to fight for what's right. Lord, we pray for repentance for those. We pray for their change of mind in people that have taken this country or trying to take this country in the wrong direction. Thank you for what we heard tonight. That gives us a lot of hope. Lord, we thank you so much that this country knows how to reset. I heard somebody say that on Fox one night, and it's just so true. that's because you're doing something, Lord. And we thank you so much. Our hope is lifted high. Strengthen those that are that have the heart to help this state, to help this country, to help this world. Lord, thank you so much that you have helped this world. You love this state. You love this world, that you gave your Son to die on the cross for our sins. And we thank you so much for that. Thank you for your great love for this world and for this nation. And thank you, God, that our hope, I believe my hope has been renewed in the people that you have chosen to press forward and fight for this country and fight for this state. We thank you for it. Thank you for the blessing tonight. And I pray all this in the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.